Evening, I'm Katie Hill. I am the president of the school board, and I'm with Leah Vila. I know.
Use your mom voice. I'll use my mom voice. Tony Avila is here as well. He is our vice president of the school board. I just want to thank everybody for being here tonight. I know that we all have busy schedules, and we really feel honored that you chose this hour to be with us and to spend time and to understand our goal. We want you to know that this was not something that the board took lightly. We've been thinking and working through this for months, and I just want everybody to understand that it's not an easy decision when you're making choices like this. And I thought that I was getting into the school board to make everybody happy, and that doesn't always happen. But I'm honored to serve, and I want to turn this over to Tony, and he's going to introduce our two first main speakers today.
Just to echo a little bit of what Katie had said, this is not, we didn't come to this decision lightly. When we hired, is it still fair to say that you're new?
Sure.
A year and a half. So when we hired Kelly and Jen, where's Jen at? Our treasurer. We hired them simultaneously a year and a half ago. So obviously the first thing that they're going to do when they come in together is wrap their arms around everything independent schools. So whether it be personnel, programming, curriculum, revenue streams, expenditures, and then the reason we're here, buildings and grounds. So one of their first reactions to us when they came to the board, after they started, they said, guys, board members, it might be best to look at doing a new build, because quite frankly, as residents of this community, it's probably not best to be using your money to dump into existing buildings, because the cost ain't gonna go very far, and it's just gonna do nothing but go up once we start doing things. So when we kind of gave them the green light to go down the rabbit hole of a plan B, it was something that we just kept exploring, and just, okay, how do we do this, how big, when do we try to do it, and Kelly and Jen will give you the specifics of everything, the what, the why, the when do we want to get started, when do we want to get it finished by. Jen's going to get into the financial particulars of it. So just again, it's not something that, like, to echo a little bit what Katie said, it's not fun asking you for your money. We know it's our money too. It's not a decision we came to lightly. We're not going to sit here and brand anyone as like against children, or we don't like schools or anything like that. We're coming to you as your representative saying that we've analyzed it every which way, and we think that this is the best route for our school district to go. So without further ado, our new superintendent, still new? Kelly, go.
Thanks, guys. Well, thanks everyone for coming this evening and coming out and spending, like Tony said, your hour with me. My plan is to go quickly through just a little bit of how we got here, why we're here, what it means to the community, and then to save some time for questions and answers. And Tony said it perfectly. You have never ever seen a school levy or a bond issue passed by 100%. Like nothing has ever passed by 100% yes or 100% no. There is always going to be people that can support it, and there are people that won't support it. The goal of the district is to try to be as transparent as possible, to provide you with as much information as possible, so that you can make the best decision for you and your family, and for the community as well. So, like Tony said, a year and a half, when I was interviewed by the board, they did mention that they had aging facilities. This building was built when Eisenhower was the president. And anybody go to this school when they were younger? Anyone? 2, 3, 4, okay. The middle school, which was the old high school for Independence, was built when Kennedy was president. And so these buildings, obviously the high school 20 years ago, brand new. These buildings have been and stood the test of time for a long time. It's not that when you walk through here, you see the building and you don't say it's falling apart. But you're gonna take a tour if you want in a little bit to see just 5 or 6 spots in this building that are causing issues for us right now, that if we were to invest money in fixing these things, it would be not worth it. The district had 2 different companies come out. In 2019, the district had a bond issue up for a new building. And that was in 2019, pre-COVID, so it was November. Went on the ballot, it failed by 315 votes. Not a ton, but 315 votes. And at that time, the district sent out some literature, some surveys, and they asked residents why they didn't support it. And some of the concern was people felt the district didn't have a directional system, there wasn't really a vision and mission. They felt like they didn't know enough about what the building was going to look like, how it was going to impact education. They felt like there wasn't enough transparency. They weren't sure about the financial piece of it. And so it wasn't that people said, you don't need a new school. It was, we're not sure if we can get behind it because we don't have enough information. So fast forward from 2019, it wasn't that these buildings miraculously got better. The problems have only worsened from 2019 to now. And so in 24, 25, AVG, which is Architectural Vision Group, it's an architecture company. The district had to pay money to have AVG come in and do an assessment on the buildings. Both of them, they bring in their engineers, their structural engineers, their electrician, their HVAC. They go around and they do a full assessment. That is available online at our website, and you will see what AVG said as far as how much would it cost to renovate the primary school, this building, and how much would it cost to renovate the middle school. Then they also said, hey, based upon just general numbers that they get from the Ohio Facilities School Commission, which is the organization that in the state where a lot of this information comes from, the Ohio Facilities School Commission said, just using their numbers, it's actually going to be less expensive to build a new building. And truly, Jen likes to mention that if we were an Ohio Schools Facilities Project, which we don't qualify because they believe in, we're like number 599 out of 600 school districts, because they believe we are wealthy enough as a community to afford it. So at OFC, they don't come in and give us any money for that. They tell us they're not gonna help us with that. But if we were to bring them in, they would tell us the same thing. They wouldn't even allow us to renovate buildings. They would tell us we have to build, because the percentage that we would need of money and to redo these buildings, it's not financially responsible. And so whether or not that was, you know, people will say, well, maybe the district didn't have a plan to keep the buildings up and keep them running. I'm gonna show you some pictures here that it wouldn't have mattered what plan we have. These buildings have stood the test of time, but there are things structurally that at this point, even if you keep up with it, it costs a lot of money to repair them and to renovate them. So I just want to talk a little bit about, and I do want to talk a little bit about the vision and mission, because when I got here, that was the first thing we did. We didn't start right away with the facilities. We really said, who are we as a district? What is our goal? What is our vision and our mission? We had teachers, we had parents, we had community members, we had elected officials, we had middle school and high school students on our committee. We worked for 6 months to answer those questions, and what we came up with is that we believe in this district, our vision is to empower and inspire our students. We want to cultivate a legacy of excellence, because in this community, Independence, people move here for a reason. People come back for a reason. Many of you sitting here said you went to school here, yet you're here with your own children. That means that there's a legacy here. People want to be in this community. Houses are not for sale in this community very long, because it is this place that people want to be. So we came up with our cultivating a legacy of excellence. We came up with our 4 pillars, our goals that we're focusing on. And one of them is providing environments where students can thrive, feel safe, accepted, and learn at the highest level. So this is a picture of this building. This is our preschool playground. So this was put together by the help of our PTO. At one point, they did not have their own playground, and so with some funds from them, this was some area out by our parking lot. This is our home ec room in the middle school that used to be our high school. This reminds me a little of the Brady Bunch. So the equipment in here, some of that is original. This is one of the home ec rooms that we have there. This is the current cafeteria that we're sitting in. This building is not air conditioned, hence the ceiling fans of all different styles on the ceiling. And this is a wall that splits into our gym, so if we needed to make this space bigger, we could do that. This is our hallways, and as you walk, you'll see that currently now with the requirements on builds, hallways have to be wider. That is part of our handicap accessible, ADA compliance, being able to have students being able to work and do things in the hallway. You will see our library here is currently in the hallway. This is where our students go to the media center because we do not have dedicated space for our library. We had to use that for another class. So currently our students do this in the library while other classes are walking to and from their classes. This is the kitchen here. Every day we have a van driver that we pay money to drive food from our middle school down to our primary school because we do not have a walk-in cooler. We cannot, electricity-wise, handle what we would need in order to have a full-size walk-in cooler. You will see that in some of our hallways, they'll talk about it today, the rooms only have 2 or 3 plugs. We cannot plug a Chromebook cart in because we will blow fuses. The building was built long before we had all of these needs. And so this is what our current kitchen looks like. The classrooms here in the primary school are built a little bit smaller than what the Ohio Schools Facility Commission would want us to, how big they'd want those rooms to be. Again, it causes difficulty just with ADA compliance, our teaching methods where we have students come to the center of the room to do their activities, to play their math games. So it's a struggle in the rooms that are this size. These are the things that you don't see just by walking around. You know, these are original, and so when these things break, we can't find the parts for them. So then we're retrofitting something to try to make it work. We can't go out and just buy a whole new one, because you just don't buy this part. This part is connected to 100 other pieces that then we have to replace. This is our middle school. So a few months ago, I had to cancel school for our middle school students. We had erosion and everything get into this. We had water leaking. Thank God, we believe it happened early on a Sunday morning by the time our custodian got in on Monday morning. We still had to cancel, but it did not ruin everything. Had that happened on a Saturday night, we would not have known about it until Monday morning. It would have been a lot worse. And people will say something like, well, how did you not have an alarm for that? Well, in newer buildings, when you install your system, there is a flooding alarm. It would let us know that there was water. That isn't something that we have in these buildings because to install something like that would cost so much that it wouldn't be worth it to do that. Air conditioning at the middle school in just a couple places, but we have students who have health needs, and so we put in window units. This is the nurse's office. It looks very inviting at the middle school. It is an old kind of alcove, so it's the refrigerator and then the nurse's files and the bed for our 6 students. This middle school used to be a high school. These are science classrooms, but not all of these sinks work. And when you do run the water in those sinks, it isn't, sometimes it's cloudy, sometimes it's a little rusty. It's just that it has been there for so long that to go and fix all of the rooms at the high school again, there's a cost associated with that. This is here in the primary school. We have water coming in from the roof. This is a picture of just a few weeks ago. So this is the lobby when the kids were entering in the morning. It was that really bad snow, then it got a little bit warm. The snow started to melt, started to come through the ceiling tiles, into here, into our girls' restroom. And again, we called out a company to fix that, just like we did with the middle school, just like we did with other things that have happened. But we are spending $5,000, $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 each time that we're putting money into that and trying to just really not even repair it as much as just try to get through and piecemeal the fixing things. But I guess my question to you is, what if our schools were really designed around our students, not retrofitted to them? When you renovate something, you're retrofitting it. You're putting some money into it, you're renovating it, but you're not really making it what it needs to be, because you can't. Structurally, you're limited in what you can do when you renovate. These are some examples of from Garmin Miller. Garmin Miller is our pre-bond architect. The district hired them after we had 12, we put out a request for proposals. We had 12 to 13 architectural groups that sent in their thesis of why we should choose them. We narrowed it down using a rubric. We got to three came and presented, and the one that the district chose was Garmin Miller. We have our reps with us tonight, Jim and Monica, who will help me if there's any questions I can't answer. But what stood out about Garmin Miller is that, one, they just do schools, and that's what they do, so that's their focus. The second thing was, while they do a lot of schools, Toledo, you know, the southern area, southwest area of Ohio, they really want to move into the Northeast. They have just opened an office, or opening an office here in Independence. They are leasing space. They want Independence to be a flagship school. They know that when other schools come to visit them, they want to be able to say, let's go see a school we've helped to build. And that's important to us, that they have the same sense of community and the same sense of success that we do. But these are just some examples of other schools they've done. This is a music room, and I don't know if anybody's ever been here when they have a performance here for the Veterans Day Parade, for different events. This wall opens up, and then our students kind of line the walls to sing, and it's really hard to see them, and parents are trying to go around, and it's not great. This is an example of a music room, and on the other side of this garage door that comes up is the cafeteria. So this stage, these stands turn around so the students can be facing into the cafeteria and be performing. So in this particular situation, you don't need another auditorium at a primary school. You just need space that can be focused on what we need it to be and not retrofitted. This is retrofitted, right? We say this is what we have to deal with, and this is what we're going to do. Where now we can creatively design these spaces to be financially responsible and at the same time to provide us what we need. Just an example of an actual kitchen that could have a walk-in cooler. This is a nice, more inviting nurse's office. Looks a little nicer. The other thing we don't have is secure entryway. So as you noticed, if you came in the front door, you just came right in. We don't have that at the middle school or the primary school. So people just walk right in. That is not safe. Now when you build a school, you are required to have a secure vestibule entryway, where you are in a vestibule until you say why you are here. You have to show your ID at that point, and then you are admitted into the building. In this particular example, the secure vestibules are outside of the area, which then allows us to track those visitors that are coming in and out of the building. This is an example of what a library should look like. This is just an example of a gym that they had. Our gym at the middle school, you know, we've got some leaking going on in that gym, some other issues there. That gym, I want to stop real quick and talk about, people will say, the middle school is, you know, 126,000 square feet, and that's the building you're going to build. Why can't you just bring students over? You have less students than you did when it was a high school. You have less students than you did way back when, which we'll talk about that as well. The problem is that at that middle school that was a high school to begin with, it has a high school sized gym. It has an auditorium that seats 800 students. It has an industrial tech room, because that's what they had in a high school back then, was this huge space for the industrial tech. It has that home ec room that I showed you, that is like 3 classrooms all into one home ec room. The classrooms at that middle school are actually larger, unlike IPS, than what you would normally have for the size of a classroom. So we have music practice rooms, there's a band room that holds 500, 600 students. There is extra space at the primary school, but it's not functional classroom space. And I'm housing 4 grades there, when most middle schools are only 3 grades. So it's not like I can just take 4th grade and move them on up. That wouldn't work because I don't have enough classroom space. If I want to put all of them in the industrial tech room, which is now our wrestling room, we could do that, but we don't have classrooms. This is an example of a courtyard, an example of a cafeteria at a primary school versus a cafeteria here. A little more inviting, obviously probably air conditioning. Another example of what a media space, a library media space could look like. These are the hallways now, hallways where students can be working collaboratively with each other. We can have our title reading tutors or our math tutors out in the hallway with students right outside of their classroom. getting some individual or group instruction. This is just, I don't even know what all these things are, but it just looks very nice, not old. And then this is our technology. Right now, our technology is very limited because we don't have really even the structure and the bones to do what we need to do with technology. So what people don't realize is, and I'm gonna make sure I say this very clearly, roof replacement at IPS. So we got a quote, we need this roof to be replaced, we know that. It's $1.5 million. At the middle school, which also needs a new roof, it's $2 million. The district gets $750,000 around, not a lot more than that, of PI money, which is permanent improvement money. We get it every year, you voted on that, we thank you for that. $750,000, that money can only be used on things that last longer than 5 years. It's what districts use for roofs, windows, boilers, HVAC, any of those types of things. So do the math. We need new roofs, so we need $3 million. So if we're gonna use the $750,000 that we get each year, we're gonna need to hold on to that money or do it in pieces. But then you're taking that money and that means nothing else should break, because if it does, we don't have the money to do those things. Window replacement. It's not that we can't find someone to replace the windows. There are window companies everywhere that would love to have our business. The problem is at the middle school, those are original single pane windows. When they break, we can't go out and fix them because they don't have the parts to do those anymore. So we try to do the best we can. But to replace the middle school windows, the quote is $2 million. These windows, as you can look in the back, as they're falling apart, they also need to be replaced. That cost is $115,000, but only because between 2000 and 2008, there were windows replaced in the building. But again, HVAC, there's no air conditioning in this building. In order to even just update that, you're looking at $2.5 million. These are true costs. So where are we getting the funding for this? And I don't know that we can say to voters, we're still gonna need to come to you, but we're gonna ask you to put all your money into these things. And by the way, we haven't even torn down the wall yet to see if there's anything else that is gonna need to be fixed. And a new pre-K eliminates these liabilities entirely. Shared spaces, I would like to have the K-8, I'll show you a diagram of it. It's 2 different buildings under one roof. Why? Well, because now I only have one, instead of 2 IT rooms, I have 1. Instead of 2 mechanical rooms, I have 1. Instead of 2 library media centers, we have 1 2-story media center. Instead of 2 gyms, we have a very large competition gym with a garage door wall. On the other side is my primary gym. So now if we wanna have wrestling meets, we wanna host a volleyball tournament, we wanna host something, a basketball tournament, we can use that space, open up that wall, and it's even larger than a competition gym. So we think through the whole idea of what if. We build a legacy for the next 50 years. There were some students at my last meeting, and they were juniors, and I said, think about in 50 years, you're gonna be sitting in this audience, because you went here, and now you're gonna be probably living back here with students. We wanna design it for today's learners and tomorrow's community. This is an example of what the building might look like. One thing we asked Garmin to do was, we're not done with the designing. These are just ideas. Once we pass the bond, we then have to hire a post-bond architect, which could be Garmin Miller, or we could put a request out and see who else is out there. But the idea is that we need to know what might this look like so we can think about our space. So this is just an example of, this is one building, but this entrance is the elementary side. This is the middle school side. This is the 2-story media center. And so the main hallway, it's almost like you're going into 2 different schools, 2 different offices, 2 different secretaries. But again, this is the cafeteria over here. Here's our science and classrooms. This is a building that would be built. Again, we made it to wanted it to look like City Hall, like the Civic Center, like the fire department, like our current high school, so it matches what this community looks like when you drive through it. And Garmin Miller did an awesome job at their first kind of go around of what might it look like. This is where the space would be, and I'm gonna go in and out between these two because I think it's a little bit easier if you see it This is the high school, the current high school. This is the front of the high school. This is the side of the high school, and here's the field house back here. This is the soccer fields. The proposal is to build our 2-story, some 1-story, right here on this soccer field, and to have a sky bridge connecting the 2 buildings. People say, why do you want to connect the 2 buildings in a sky bridge from your 2nd floor middle school side to your high school side? Because I currently have middle school students taking high school courses. I currently have shared staff that go between the middle school, walk across the parking lot, pick up the 8th graders, walk the 8th graders back over to the high school to take industrial tech, or walk the 8th graders over to go take Spanish, or they come over and they do the home ec. Why wouldn't we want to not have the kids have to put their coats on, walk outside, spend the time that they should be in class going back and forth between the buildings? So much easier to have that connected space and to allow our students. Currently at the 8th grade, I have an Algebra 1 teacher. When this happens, it might just be our Algebra 1 students walk across the walkway to go take Algebra 1 with their peers over at the high school. So that's an idea here with this. You'll see this is a pre-KK wing, elementary wing. This is the athletics where people would come in for our basketball events and things like that, so you park in the back. Our middle school, extra parking here. This shows you buses coming in this way, in the back. We're trying to avoid the buses being with cars drop-off. Our cars, parent drop-off would be here, and our student drivers are here, separating all 3 of those. People have asked, what about traffic? Backing up in the area. We live over there. Well, here's what I'm gonna tell you. Currently, our middle and high schools start and end at the same time. They have currently been always starting at the same and ending at the same time. So everybody comes and gets dropped off there. We don't do high school busing currently. Hopefully we will be able to get that back. So we have our student drivers coming up here, parents coming up here to drop off at the high school, parents coming in here for the middle school, and then either coming out over here or over here. That's currently what happens. Our buses come in the front currently of the middle school to drop off. So that's what's happening. When you bring the primary school up, the primary school starts an hour later than the middle and high school. They also end an hour later. So not everybody is coming at the same time. We've also looked at making sure our buses are back here. Currently, if you come to the primary school before we open our back road, which hopefully we'll be doing that soon, our buses have to be held until our pickup goes, so we're not even efficiently running our bus system. Where in this particular situation, the buses have their own drop-off in the back for middle and their own drop-off in the back and pickup for elementary. So removing the buses from that. Once we pass the bond issue, it'll be a year-long design phase. That's when you hire a traffic company to come in and say, do we need a roundabout? Do we need to make something one way? Do we need to close something? This cut through right here, we have a gate. That gate will be up during the day, school day, but it will be removed after school hours and on the weekends so people can still use that connector to come in. But during the school day, when we're dropping off pre-K and K, we don't want parents to come in to cause issues with the traffic. We're thinking about how could this work so much better than currently what we have with both buildings with pickup and drop off. This is just another example of, this is what I want to show. This is where the current middle school is. You see this space right here is kept. This is the current middle school auditorium. We are not going to demolish that to start. We're going to put up a temporary wall. We're going to cocoon it. It basically means we're going to run some utilities to it, hold on to it. That auditorium is a beautiful auditorium. It is amazing. And we have a lot of people, groups that rent that space from us to use it for their concerts, the men's choir concert, different bands come in and use it. We're not quite ready to say, let's get rid of it, because if we decided in a few years after that that we needed to rebuild it, it would cost us a fortune to rebuild something like that. And so the goal is over the next few years to try to go out and see if there's somebody like a Beck Center that might want to purchase that, a youth theater that might want to open here, an adult theater like a Chagrin Valley Little Theater. There's lots of options for that, and we don't want to be too hasty in getting rid of that. I want to talk a little bit about enrollment. There's questions about whether or not our enrollment has been declining over the years and whether or not the building we're building is going to be the right size, and how do you know that it's not going to be too big, because there were concerns understanding about the high school and the numbers. So we did end up working with the Educational Service Center of Cuyahoga County. They did a live birth rate, and they went out until 2027 at least. Actually, it's 2028, and this cut off a little bit. I'll have to expand this a little bit on my slide. And basically what they do is they look and they say, how many live births do you have, and this starts in 2012, and then how many students do you actually have come to kindergarten? And so you can kind of look, and what I want to say is what's interesting is we have what we call bubble classes. They're about every 2 to 3 years where we have these bubble classes. For example, in, let's see, where's my one right here? In 2021, there were 61 number of live births in Independence. 89 students showed up at kindergarten. So every once in a while, that 90 is pretty high because we usually average about 70. And so that 89, we had 20 extra kids. We needed an extra class for that. Last year, we had a larger kindergarten class. We needed 4 classrooms. This year, we didn't need 4 kindergarten classrooms. We needed 3 kindergarten classrooms. So each year, we have this fluctuation, but our enrollment based upon the kindergarten and live birth ratio that we got from the Educational Service Center, which again is based solely on the live births, and then also what your kindergarten enrollment is in EMIS each year, so they can compare it. And then they start to look and go, you can predict, based upon the pattern, this is how many students you will have. If an enrollment drops for a year, for example, last year I graduated a large senior class. It probably was a group that went up with 4 classrooms at their grade levels. This year I only brought in 3 kindergarten classes. When that happens, it looks like your enrollment went down for a year. Then next year, when I graduate this year's group, which is a smaller class than last year's senior, and I bring in 4 kindergarten classrooms, then it looks like we increased enrollment. But we are looking at the numbers, and we are not showing that we would be declining enrollment. There's questions about, any of the new homes that are being built here, and there's questions about, it is an elderly population. Are you gonna have people moving? Are you gonna have younger families moving in? Are you gonna have them downsizing? We did tell Garmin, whatever we build, we wanna make sure we have an identified place for if we need to, expand and have more classrooms. We want the utilities put where it will be easy to do that, but we wanna plan for that. So, here's the big question, is how to pay for it. And so, between supporting schools and protecting taxpayers, we really went back and forth with this for a long time and tried to figure out how are we going. Obviously, I wish someone would give us $59.5 million. I don't think that's gonna happen. And so we need to figure out how we're gonna fund it. And unfortunately, schools can't go and just take out loans. We are not able to do that, and so we needed to kind of think creatively about our community. And what we know is there's about 7,400 residents in Independence. Of the 7,400 residents, there's about 2,800 who are above the age of 60. And those above the age of 60 are sometimes living on their Social Security. They're living on more of a fixed income. We also know that we have probably about 2,000 that are our parents. We know we have about 12 to 1,300 that are under the age of 18. And so basically that leaves about 888 people left that either don't have kids or send their kids to private schools. We are trying to think really about those demographics as we move forward with how we're gonna fund it. So I'm gonna turn it over to Jen, and she's gonna talk a little bit about that.
Absolutely. And we're gonna test my technology skills using, a clicker here, but what comes next in my now and how the bond and the SDIT work together. That's really what I wanna talk about. So why not just one tool? This is the first time in Cuyahoga County that a school's put on the school district income tax. Parma is also trying it for operating 2 this May, but no one currently has one on, so it is a different concept up here in Cuyahoga County. And I say that because in Medina County and counties further south, this is a prevalent way to fund schools through the school district income tax. When you look at just the bond and mills, if we only wanted to fund this by a bond, it would be 5.87 mills additional to the tax bills for you. And that would be $206 per year for a $100,000 market value home over 30 years, that would cost that particular homeowner $6,180. And if you took a average home market value in Independence of $300,000, that would make it $18,540 over the 30 years. We are all very aware of property tax reform that just took place in December. That has structurally changed how schools get funded through property taxes, and other municipalities also, how they're going to get structurally funded or taxes. So trying to be aware of the tax pressures right now, we wanted to look at other alternatives to see what's out there. And that is really how the two tools became one plan, is that it's diversified, it's unique, it's thoughtful, it's trying to take into consideration all constituents and all the needs. So on 0.75 mils, that's gonna be the bond, and then the school district income tax is 1% of earned income, and it's only on residents. So what's different between this income tax and a municipality income tax is this is only on residents, where municipality tax is non-residents and residents. And when you pull them together, what we're going to do, that is how we're gonna fund it. The 1%, on the next slide. Nope. The 1% income tax, when passed, what we would do then is go issue debt with that, called certificate of participation, and that's how we'll actually get a debt instrument to do that. And that will be our funding source. But to get a certificate of participation debt service, you have to have a funded source aligned or already determined, and this will be our determined funding source for that. So total project cost, as we already mentioned, is $59 million. That annual debt payments, just like your home mortgage, would be $3.8 million. And if you look at that, we're all having, every one of these components are going to be paying towards it. So the bond will be an average annual payment of $451,000 a year. The school district income tax would be $3.3 million, and the district will be covering the shortfall of $38,000, which doesn't seem like much when you look at it by percentages, but we also are trying to keep all of the buildings running, so we don't have a lot of permanent improvement money, as Kelly explained, to a lot towards that. So we're trying to preserve general funding to do the classroom curriculum needs of the district and the opportunity we provide. So that's how it breaks out. I had a couple questions today specifically about, if you do the math, that's more than the $59.5 million, and that's because it works just like any mortgage or any car loan or any loan you take out where you're going to pay interest. So there's a significant amount of interest payments that you're going to be paying just like on any traditional loan. You have more interest up front, less towards the end of the 30 years. What this means for our residents is that it impacts different residents differently. So we have a calculator, and it is available on our website, where you can enter in your home value. If you don't know, there's a lookup table to get you there, and you can enter in your particular earned income to see how much would it personally cost you. We have the exclusions, I think, down in there. So a couple things to mention is that on the 1% earned income, it does not count for retirement incomes. It doesn't count for Social Security. Most of the gains and capital gains taxes are not on there. There is not a comprehensive listing. We have exhausted our resources to say it's exactly this, but it would be based on your W-2 income. And if you have really, really specific, unique situations, you would really want to talk to your accountants to find that out. But generally speaking, for us W-2 earners, it's going to be from your W-2. So on earned income only, which is important because it does not affect pensions, retirement, capital gains, and things that in stocks and bonds. So now, whatever questions we have, or are we doing this for? I'm sorry.
Well, no, we'll do questions. And I do want to mention too, the reason the calculator is there is everybody's in a different situation. So unlike a bond where I could tell everybody, this is what you're going to pay based on your home value, right? I could say to you, this is what you're going to pay out of pocket. If you are 5 years away from retirement, your amount that you're going to pay for that SDIT is going to be less than potentially the full bond we would have done for 30 years on your property, right? If you're 10 years away, it still might be less. I don't know. And so everybody's different, which is why we ask that you use the calculator, because that will really give you an idea of what you individually will be paying, because it really is different. You're not going to be paying the same thing as your neighbor as it relates to the whole amount. And that's why we went with the 0.75 property tax. That 0.75 is $26 on a $100,000 home, or $75 for a $300,000 home for the year. So if you are someone who doesn't have a W-2, then you are paying that $75 for a year versus the $605, $620 for a year. If you are someone who has a W-2, depending on what that is, if it's a part-time job, you take 1% of that. You don't pay that all up front. It is just like any other tax. It is taken out however many pays you get. So it's just like your income tax that you're currently paying, your federal tax. It's taken out every time you get paid, so 24, 26 pays. For some people who have a higher earned income, they may look at this and go, this is too much money, and I 100% understand that. Just like in a whole bond situation, there might have been people that would have said, with a full bond, this is too much money, I can't pay this in property taxes. We understand that. Our job here is not to convince you to vote yes or no. Our job is to give you all the facts, to tell you how we got here, and then you have to make your own decision. But I hope the decision is based on, like, at least that you realize we need a new school, we're being transparent, versus, those other things that I think in 2019 weren't there. But we will answer questions, and then we also have those people who would like to do a quick tour. We'll do that afterwards. So any questions? Yes?
Can you go back to that one slide that had the windows and roofs?
Yes.
Okay, so why is the roof replacement cost and the window replacement cost exactly the same for IMS?
I might have typed it wrong.
Can you total those numbers up, please, roughly?
Sure, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13,
15 roughly?
14, yeah, 15 million.
That's 1/4 of $60 million. That's not a bad investment for 2 buildings, plural buildings.
And that overall is, if we were to do that right now, that's if we were to do those things, but that doesn't include everything that we need to do. Like,
Okay.
that's those 3 things. You're not even talking about the
So
fact that
that's
we don't have a
60.
secure vestibule, we don't have large enough classrooms, we don't have electrical. Like, we haven't even put that in there. We
Okay.
didn't put in there that after you do the roofs, you're gonna need new ceiling tiles. We didn't put that our lights, in some of the areas need to be replaced. We didn't put that there's nothing we could do here in order to get a walk-in cooler in, just because of the way it is. We'd have to demolish that whole kitchen. So that was just an example of what something costs.
Bump a wall,
But actually,
add a cooler.
you could actually, have you looked at the whole AVG report?
Yes,
And what did you say about that?
it's scary. I've been through this twice already at 2 middle schools and high schools. And the money spent locally here.
2 middle schools and high schools, what is that?
I was the maintenance director at Lawrence School.
Oh, sorry, I thought you meant here. Okay, so I was like, we don't have any.
Yeah, and when you start spending this kind of money, you have to be very careful.
Yeah.
And the numbers aren't adding up.
What numbers are not adding up? So in the ABG report, if you go in, every single thing is written down by dollar value.
Right.
So did you go in then and look at
I
that?
didn't go at every dollar value, but.
So if you look at and actually we have 2 of them. So if you wanna look at the ABG report, which is the first one we did.
Right.
And then Garmin did a second one with their engineers and everything. So we
Right.
have 2 reports online. So that goes piece by piece, each thing that you would have to do in a renovation with the cost. So that would be the better one to look at. And I apologize if I screwed that up, I will fix that.
Why do you need a large gymnasium when you have a field house and the rec center?
So how would our students get there during the day for gym? They're required by law to have PE. How would they get to the
From
civic?
middle school, it's close.
This one?
And then from the middle school, it's a walk.
Yes,
But
and
you were talking but you were talking about, wrestling meets or matches and stuff like that. That was one of the reasons for a large gymnasium. That's
No,
what
it's
you
not,
mentioned.
yeah, it's not the reason. You have to have a middle school gym and you have to have a primary school gym. You need to have 2 gyms because everybody needs gyms, so they're all taking it at the same time. So in this particular situation, we're being smart in the sense that if you have a big gym, which is your middle school gym, because you have to have a competition gym for your middle school athletics, and then you have a smaller gym on the other side, if the district wanted to rent that space like we currently do, We rent out our high school gym for events, our middle school gym, we rent out that space and we earn money on that. You can lift that garage door and you would have a larger space that you could use that for. It's not why you do it, it's just, it helps with, if you want to be able to have those events.
But I think what she's saying is the field house also does huge shifts.
So the field house is in a shared use agreement. It is not ours. They run their aftercare program out of there, and so we have to be out at a certain time. It does not have space, so it's a wide open place for that. So we don't have the equipment we would need for our preschoolers. We don't need to have the equipment we would need. You would not be able to use that. During the day, some of our athletics over at the high school, our gym, we also have gym at our high school, that class, and other classes that use that. That would not be a realistic place for you to have your gym. Plus the fact, like for your basketball.
The small size gym takes up
Well, that's why we're not keeping the middle school gym, the original middle school gym, because some people asked about that.
I've been following closely with city council since the new, council service members have been voted in. And, it does not look like that we have gotten permission to use the land up there yet. If, heaven forbid, council does not allow us to use that land, is there a backup plan?
Yes, and so we're working on that with Garmin
Okay.
as well. So what they're doing is, my understanding is, they're gonna pass a resolution like they did with the high school bond, which before the bond passed, they passed a resolution first before the amendment. So the resolution that city council is proposing, or hopefully proposing in the next couple of days, I think, the 26th, 27th. Oh, she's here. Oh, sorry. City council's here.
I will be presenting it.
Yes, she's presenting it. So it's gonna be a resolution that will basically say that once the bond passes, that then they will do, because they don't wanna, the concern is that we're doing the land now, and we haven't had the community vote on whether or not the bond is gonna pass. So we're trading land with you, or giving you land that, depending on what the community says, might not be happening. So why would we do that beforehand? So the resolution will be there to say, once the bond passes, then there would be consideration for the swap, for the land.
But if council doesn't vote
Yes.
approval.
Yes, then we would
And
have
they
to have,
don't give you that.
we would have to have a backup plan.
Okay,
Yep.
I mean, is there one in works, or?
Well, it would be probably where they were gonna have it when it was in 2019, which potentially might be where the parking lot is currently at the middle school. So
Just 'cause there's a whole new council right now, so compared to last council,
Yeah.
so.
Yeah, yes, so we're hoping. I've spoken to them twice, I've been there to present to them, so, and answered some questions, so
Yeah,
hopefully.
I've been watching closely,
thank
so.
Before we answer that, may I just offer?
Yeah.
On the STIT, one of the questions we've gotten a lot of is, how long are we proposing that? That's teed up to be the 30 years to match the same length and duration of the bond. And we've also had the questions, as incomes rise, if you start collecting more, what will you do? If you have excess, we will be using all the bond funding first, obviously, and then if there were to be excess of the school district income tax, that could be used for general fund uses of operating to extend levy cycles if need be, or it could also be used to pay off the bond earlier and put bigger towards the bond, depending on the timing of when that might occur. So I just want to be open with that, because we've gotten that.
Yeah.
Hello.
Hi.
So I'm not one to disagree with the buildings because, I have kids in the buildings. So I know that middle school and here need updated. I'll be the first to tell you when it gets 80 degrees, I don't send my kids to school because of the air conditioning. The problem I have is the income tax. I don't think, I would personally prefer to pay the $206 a year on my taxes than to have everyone in my household that has an income, pay 1%. I'm not comfortable with that, that's where I disagree with it. And then also if you're gonna improve or build new by the time, my kids aren't gonna benefit from this at all. But I think for the high school, they need a new vestibule. Because when people come into them, and I know that the principal's here, when people do come into the building, they are questioned, they are video cameraed, but once someone comes into that building, right, and they do have bad intentions, they can take off upstairs to the cafeteria, wherever they want to once they're buzzed in. That is something I think should be addressed for the high school, well as just not the middle school and the primary school. And, let's see, what else did I have? And then again, if parents choose to send their kids to private school, they have to pay that, and then they'll be taxed also for schools that they're not using. You see, and so I don't have a problem with building, I don't have a problem with any of that, it's just the money that we're getting from income tax is where I disagree with. And I don't know if, we're renters, people that come here and rent, would they be applied to that 1% income tax?
Yes.
And me personally, the $6,180 over 30 years sounds better
For
to
the
me than you
100,000,
taking my 1% income tax, and then my sons, and then my daughters, and then my high school kids in 3 years will be having to pay a 1% income tax for a school they will not be utilizing, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay,
I
and
think
then,
that's- yeah.
just on your one slide, you're saying that the bond would only bring in 451,000 a year?
That will be the proceeds of the bond, yes.
Now, in the article that was posted in the Post, it said 7.6 mil annually.
I know, I actually reached out to her today when it was brought to my attention, and she's doing a correction to it.
She changed it on her online article,
Mhm.
and she's going to do a correction because she had the wrong amount there.
So the
Laura.
7.6 million is wrong.
7.6 million annually is incorrect. It's a principal amount of 7.6 million. Total for the bonds, not 7.6 annually.
Ah, okay. But yeah, that's all I have to say is I'm for the building, but I'm just not for the income tax. If
Yeah.
there's a different way or a different way to go about that,
Yeah. So the difficulty is that, like, and I appreciate you sharing that, and then we have gotten comments from other people that are thankful that it's this funding mechanism.
Well,
So that's why I
and-
said in the beginning, you're gonna.
well,
like-
yeah, because our
Right.
community is either
Yeah.
very young
Yeah.
or very old,
Yeah.
and the ones in between are kind of like
Yeah.
us, I'm not either
Right.
very
Not-
old or very
well,
young, but
yeah.
the
Very
people
young.
stuck in the middle, making a living and
Yeah.
are
No,
gonna be
and we-
punished
and-
more
and
if you're making
believe
more.
me, there was a lot of, if you watch the board meetings for the last year, there was a lot of conversation really about, do you go higher on a bond, less on an SDIT? Do you go all SDIT? Do you go all bond?
And
I will tell you that.
How did you guys come up with that? Who
So,
approved that?
I will tell you, well, one is based on our data. So, since when, there's been 7 requests for new money.
1996.
Since 1996 in Independence, 7 times there's been new money as an issue in Independence. Out of those 7, only 2 have passed. Independence, for whatever reason, the community does not really support new money in general. And that's with a bond. That's no SDIT, that's just a bond.
I think a lot of
and
people are
so-
scared of where it's going and who's.
Yeah, so, but in our point, we tried to analyze that data but when we come for renewals, then there's more success, right? People are more apt to do that. So we looked at what is the history and what does the voting history look like in the community. The second thing was really looking at those demographics and thinking about how do we understand those who are living, whether you're old or not, and people say, well, you say fixed income, I'm living on a fixed income, everybody is, right? But when you think about people who don't have a W-2 and are living on Social Security, of which our demographics would say we have quite a few of those, and they're saying they don't owe anything on their house, but yet they're being taxed, because we're not the only entity that's taxing property, right? You have everybody taxing property. And we hear that as well. So we're really, and so when you say how do we come up with it, it was something when talking with our financial person who works for the district, he mentioned the SDIT. We started thinking about maybe that would be something that we could look at and consider. We talked to other districts that have an SDIT just to see how that was working for them. We then discussed, okay, if we did an SDIT, how much we have to call and find out what would 1% get us, what would can only do it in increments of 0.75, 0.5, 0.25. So a lot of thought went into it. Listen, nobody's saying it's a home run. We could potentially fail in May, and we're going to go out and say, why did we fail? And if it's the funding mechanism, well, then you're back at the drawing board. If it's not the funding mechanism, I'm hoping people don't say it's that we didn't believe you needed a new school, right? Because I'm trying to share that information. Or someone says, I didn't know what the school was going to look like. So those are some of the things that we're thinking about.
Okay.
Thank you for the presentation, I appreciate it. I learned some new information here. You said something about there's currently a funding mechanism that we receive $750,000 to the district annually for capital.
Permanent improvement, yep.
How has that been spent annually?
Oh, boy.
Has it been spent in full annually, or what sort of projects? I know we have a newer high school. I have two daughters here in IPS, and I know there's things that pop up and fail. You fix those for 20,000 here and there, but I don't know if I see a proactive plan that's been happening in the last 5 or 10 years to kind of address some of these things.
So-
That's one. I have a second question.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm
after
sorry.
that. No, go ahead.
I didn't mean to interrupt.
No.
We do buses out of that, we've done HVAC repairs, we did some of the athletic renovations have come out of that, and bigger things, for athletics have come out of that too. And then anytime you're repairing one of those capital items, you can also use that money for that. To answer your question, has it been used in full? No, not last year or this year, because we're also working on our capital plan in conjunction with our facility assessment to know what's our priorities and how we're prioritizing. Mr. Ebert and I get to spend a lot of time together going over what that will look like as the director of operations. So we've been working actively on putting that capital plan together.
And trying to put together two plans, the what if it does pass, and a lot of things that need to be done at the high school. If it does pass, we can concentrate on the high school and make improvements there. But then if it doesn't pass, we're still going to have the problems. We come back from Christmas break, we have the water main break behind the stadium between the middle school. That's a $50,000 fix that we have to open up a PO for to dig out and replace the piping. We haven't bought a bus in years, and our fleet is aging.
How much was a bus, Mr. Ebert?
$155,000 with everything that we needed. And then, staying on the busing, you have motors that are $25,000, $30,000, and we have a great mechanic, we have great maintenance people, we have great custodians. I know I've been the building principal here the last 6 years, and I know I have one of the best, and he's in this room today, Dave, with the upkeep of this building and our maintenance crews, doing the things that they do to keep our buildings running each day. But I'll tell you, we run into problems on a weekly basis, just little things here and there, roof leaks here and there, that we're just patching things left
How
and
much
right.
is the paving that we set aside for every year?
We set aside last summer we set aside $70,000, and we definitely need more than that. I mean, you go into some of those parking lots, there's potholes and things like that, and that's not even the bus garage parking lot. That's our most expensive vehicles that we have, that we need to look at, where they're going to central office, where they're stored, and those types of things, protecting them. So we have turf coming up probably in the next 2 to 3 years. That is, and our track is something that needs to be resurfaced. So there's all these things on the horizon, and then not even counting technology and new Chromebooks and upgrades of phone systems and things like that. So it's really, I'm starting to learn on the prioritizing and then patching things as they come up.
I'm sorry,
Yeah, then my other question was just about the financing for this. Is there any money being put down, or is the entire $60 million being financed? And how much interest are you expecting that we'll be paying for the 30 years? It sounds like we'll be paying a massive amount of interest potentially.
It is because it's a $59.5 million project. I'm not gonna deny that. It's a 5% interest rate estimation right now, but you don't get to lock that in until you go to sale for bonds. So you pass in May, you typically go for sale in July or August to present your financial official statement to sell bonds.
Is it 100% being financed?
Well, the district is paying the differential. There's a shortfall of $38,000, and so from district funds, we're paying $38,000 per year.
That we're gonna pull from that 700,000. Anybody else before? Okay, hold on 1 second. In the back?
I heard two different things actually. One, I heard you're not gonna get taxed on your pension. My pension comes with W-2.
He said his pension comes with a W-2.
But there's,
My pension comes with W-2.
I'll need to ask you afterwards then.
What's that?
I'd like to talk to you afterwards then, because I'm not aware of that.
Because I also work and have a W-2.
Oh, well, do you work and have a W-2, and then your pension also comes on a different W-2?
Yeah.
Pension should be 1099. But
Still gotta declare it.
right, but that's not part of the.
It's not
part of
under-
your tax. That's not part of the SDIT or income tax. That's exempt.
Yeah. Oh, no, that was something at you were part of the, I'm sorry, you were part of the bond focus group. Not, I was thinking you meant the last community meeting. No, that is something we're gonna do with private donors, if we ever can. We'll see. It's a pipe dream. It's a pipe dream, one I really hope happens, but we'll see. Yes.
So a question I had was, obviously you had to have Rita or something give you all the information on wages of the community to come up with the 1%, am I correct?
Ohio Department of Taxation.
Okay, so somehow you got that number. There's many residents that have two residencies, one in Florida, one here. What are you gonna do if let's just say half of those people decide to say, you know what, my full-time residence is gonna be in Florida. And did an actuarial come up with any scenarios where you might not get the money you possibly think you're getting?
Through the Ohio Department of Taxation? Are
No,
you
I'm just saying,
requesting there?
did you have an actuarial look at all scenarios?
We had our underwriting team that we work with do different scenarios. I don't know that it was actuarial.
So what would happen if a resident that is wealthy decided to use another property as their primary residence?
And then take away their earned income from our SAT.
Exactly, that is going to happen.
People are, well, I heard of other people planning on diverting money in some way or another, so that way the school's not getting it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think there's anything we can really do about that.
They'll have a nexus problem on their taxes, I mean, that's short-sighted, I mean, that.
No, I'm just saying, the question is, what if you come short because of that scenario?
Well, we've talked to other so to be honest with you, like, we've gone out and talked, we're not like the first district to do it, just in Cuyahoga County. And we've talked to them, our financial people, they haven't said, I mean, I don't know that it would be enough to sink us, and the people that would do it, but I don't wanna say that it's like there's a lot of what ifs, like, what if everybody leaves and
Well,
moves?
my question is
Right, like, I
property
don't know
tax.
that maybe people would buy the houses.
Would you have to increase property taxes to make up
You
for
can't
that?
raise it if you
Once it's
cannot
passed.
raise either the bond or the SDIT without a vote. You can lower your SDIT, but you can't raise it without a vote. Okay, before I get to you, Mr. Doherty, is there anybody else? Yes.
I just had one, and mine's more towards the building than
Yes.
my financial part. I understand these buildings, I work in the school district, I understand buildings falling apart. My concern is I have 3 grandchildren who go here. My concern is the elementary and the middle school together, because I've worked both in middle school and elementary, and I know the difference between those kids. How much interaction would there be? Like you're saying, there's one cafeteria, there's one media center. First graders, maybe in hallways with 8th graders, 7th graders.
So they won't be in the same hallways, they're two totally different buildings. The media center is a first floor, which is our primary, and then the second floor, which is totally different than the first floor, they're just stacked on top of each other, is gonna be our STEAM and our media for our middle school. So 2 different locations, they're not mixed together. They have their own gyms. The cafeteria currently is on the elementary side. We are still working through, and once the bond passes, determining, since it will be connected, our high school students only use the cafeteria for about an hour and a half during the day in their lunches, because they have shorter lunches. So part of the idea is maybe our 7th and 8th graders could go over to the high school to use that cafeteria, since our kitchen will be there, and then we wouldn't have them all together. Our 5th grade is gonna be with our K through 5, we're moving that over. 5th grade should be with the 3rd through 5th grade and not with the 6th through 8th grade. So they're not gonna be together at all.
In regards to, I don't know, has the city mentioned what they're going to do with those soccer fields? Because my girls all play soccer, so that's 2.5 years
Yeah.
that they're not gonna have those soccer fields.
We've already had that conversation. So, yes, so we're gonna allow a lot of it to happen on the turf. So, when football's not going on.
And we'll be
Mr.
creative
Eads,
with different green areas throughout the city and
over by Sweet
things like
Peas,
that.
and we've already talked to the city about what that would look like.
Okay.
Yeah. All right, Mr. Doherty. Oh. Oh, yes.
First, I've got to say, some of you guys are really attentive to some of these things. Like, I have not been paying attention to numbers and all that. You guys catching that? I'm not that level of paying attention. So I appreciate it for my thing breaks, you fix it, the next thing's gonna break. So you're just constantly patching things up and it ends up costing more. I guess my biggest concern, having a kid that's gonna be going through the buildings in the next couple of years, what is your guys' contingency plan, backup if this doesn't pass?
We're gonna be back on the ballot. I mean, and eventually it will, I mean, what ends up happening is, and this is why TJ and Jen are working so closely this year, is because I have them doing two plans. One is, if we don't pass, what is that $750,000 gonna go to? Because there are things that are gonna need to be fixed in the next few years. And even when we pass, this is the scary thing, even if we pass in May, we're not actually gonna be in the process of moving kids in to a new building for 4 to 5 years. Like, that's just the process. So we're already, like, if we don't pass in May, we go back on in November, and we don't pass in November, we're back on in the following May. Like, we're just pushing that out. Well, then what happens is we don't have enough money in the 700,000. We do have to start pulling from our operating, which then is, you start ripping teachers, you start, canceling programming, you start canceling things because you have to get the money somewhere. And it's not a threat, it's like the reality of it, you don't have the money. So the contingency is to try to get people to vote yes, because they understand the need, and I shouldn't say improvements, but try to understand what our needs are. But the contingency would be we keep going, and then at the same time, we're crafting all right, Mr. Ebert, it didn't pass in May, it didn't pass in November. Start rank ordering the things that we're gonna have to start putting money into, because we want the buildings to be safe. And certain things, I'll have to just keep continuing to do, which are things like no air conditioning, canceling for hot days and things like that. Like, certain things just won't ever be done, but other things like our roof, other things like some of our electrical, like, we can't keep blowing fuses, like, we gotta figure something out. So, that's our contingency plan. Not a great one, but. Yes.
This is the part B of my question too. Just the demographics of independence. A lot of, again, the higher wealth people are retiring, let's say within the next 5 years. They're not moving out, they're still staying in their home.
Right.
People that are moving in are less wage earners. Again, if the money, I don't know if an actuary will look at all the scenarios. If the money comes short on the income side, what is going to happen? I just need to know what is going to happen. If it comes short.
The probability of that happening is very slim, to be very frank with you.
Everybody says slim, but if it happens.
We will have to find and make it. We're gonna have to make it
Another
work, and then
bond
that
issue,
would.
another.
And I will say that, when we pass the bond, Jen and I then have to go and we have to bring all of our financials to whoever's going to buy our bonds. We have to prove that we're financially, they're gonna look at, to your point, they're gonna look at everything from what did they tell you you're gonna make each year? If you're putting that into something and you're earning interest on that, how much interest are you earning each year? Like, it is a very stressful process to go through. It's her and I in front of the team, and we have to be able to answer all their questions and show them that we have a rating of a certain, level. So they're not gonna loan us the money if they think that there's a problem with the way we're gonna fund it.
And I can ask specifically how long of a look back they do, but it's based on historical trends. It wasn't a one snapshot in time. So, but I can ask how long of a look back they do.
When they tell us.
When they do their
I would say look forward.
We can't tell the future, so you have to use the history to repeat.
Well, and you always go you could say, what happens if the market crashes? What happens if we have another 2007? Like, what happens if everybody flees? What happens if there's another COVID? You know what I mean? So I think.
What happens is very simple though.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's why I think we would go and ask.
People that are 60 years old.
Yes.
They're gonna retire when they're 67. So that's 7 years of income you'll get from high level income people. That's gonna disappear.
Well, again, they did the math based on looking back and saying, how many people do you have, who's coming in, how many people do you have that are paying that? So we're trusting
But you said
the
homes
people.
aren't, there's not many homes on the market, there's not many people moving in.
Right,
It's
so
a
that's
big
what they're
lockdown
basing
community,
that.
so it's like I'm saying,
Yes.
some monies are gonna slip because people are retiring. We're at an age where we're retired. You're gonna get a couple years out of it, that's it, that's the done deal.
the answer for that.
Okay.
I'm gonna be honest.
Yeah.
I know that when we go, they're not gonna loan us any money if they don't believe that that we're prepared to
And
pay
that's
for
why I
it.
keep on asking,
Yeah.
was there an actuarial firm that made some
We-
kind of assessment?
We had a firm that did it, that has done
Okay.
run all the numbers. You're asking if it was an actuarial
Yes,
person?
people that do
They might
that
have had
as a-
someone in their office that was an actuarian. I don't know
And
that.
it's really the Ohio Department of Taxation who does it, and they do it for all the school district income tax and take that responsibility on, so I
would
didn't
love to
ask
see
if
the
they
numbers
hire
of how they
actuaries
came
or
with
not.
it, that's all. You
Might
guys-
that be online?
I don't know. How
That
they,
info might that be online?
the SDOT, how they came up with their number. They just gave us a number.
Yeah, you give them.
When the government gives me a number, I don't believe it.
Well,
Yeah.
but I know, but then we also have our financial people as well. So once it came to us, then we give it to our financial.
But I would
people.
like to see some spreadsheet, I'd like to see
That would be nice.
30-year
Okay,
draw.
we'll work on that, and see if we can.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, Mr. Rogers.
Jane, there are some numbers that I like to go over, and there's some things too that I'd like to revisit as I go forward. First of all, it's been about a 30-year mortgage basically for us, okay? We don't even know, is it being school for 30 years? I mean, during COVID, we're closed down for 2 years. And another thing that really bothered me a lot was that the high school was being built without a vapor barrier. And that caused millions of dollars in repairs, okay? And the state, report card says that we're spending, our operating spending is per pupil $22,250, where the state's average is $12,007. Our classroom instruction is $15,011. State 8.5, 3,005. Non-classroom spending, 7,200. State 41. There's a lot of other, even Councilman Tracus in September 25 made note that our property taxes in Independence went up on average 34%, which we all know that the school gets the majority of the cut. Last meeting, you told me that driveway that was put in was $150,000, correct? But now you're ready to tear down this building, okay? And when you did say that it wouldn't be feasible to put homes on this site,
I didn't say that.
you said, yeah.
No, I said
wrote
it's
it.
zoned, no, I did not say that. I said
Okay,
it's
I
zoned-
wrote that
It said
down.
it's zoned commercial. I said it's not zoned commercial, it's zoned residential. And that we could sell this land and a developer could buy this land. And a developer could decide to put 3 or 4 homes
That
on this
is
land.
not what you said. I wrote it down.
I did say that.
Okay.
I really would have never said, because that's our plan all along.
Why are we pushing this before we see what House Bill 335 does? Because if House Bill 335 passes, then you guys are gonna have to come back to us for even more money, for operating and everything else. I mean, there's not gonna be any standards of how our taxes are gonna be distributed. The parks will come after us, the library's gotta come after us.
Mr. Doherty, I 100% agree with you. The way that schools are funded is unconstitutional and has been for years. And I'm telling you what, it is the most frustrating time to be in education right now. Because it's not right that the residents should have to pay the burden of the schools. It is not right, and it's been found unconstitutional for so many years. So now it's gonna be a referendum to be on the ballot in November. And if I'm voting, right, I might be like, yeah, I would love to not have to pay property taxes. The question becomes then, how are we going to then fund schools? And they haven't come up with what that's gonna look like. So to your point, yes, 100%. There is a lot of uncertainty right now. Jen mentioned that when she was doing her financial forecast. We're not sure, every day a new legislator's putting something before, or Senate or whatever, in House to vote on something that is detrimental to public education.
Okay, and the 59.5 million, okay, that's for construction of the buildings, right?
That is infrastructure, that is construction, that is our parking, that is site improvements, that's demolition, that is contingencies, that is making sure we have a building that is going to have a vapor barrier on the roof. But I wasn't here when the vapor barrier was put in and they did a residential roof on the high school. Because I wouldn't have.
But I mean, the money that has been wasted in
money
I mean,
pit,
you
but-
put in electronic flush valves in all the bathrooms. I mean, those are like $400 a pop when you put them in. Not a manual.
We don't have electronic.
Now you don't. Now
No, we
manual.
never did.
Yes, you did. When the high
No.
school was first built.
Back 20 years ago? Oh, I didn't think they had those back then, but,
There were no
okay.
They were,
so-
because I see milk crates full of them in the storage areas.
Milk crates full of what?
The old ones they tore out.
Old ones, the old electronic flush ones, okay? I mean, the cost of a lot of this stuff, and again, we don't know what House Bill 335 is gonna do to our taxes at all. None of us. And I can tell you one thing, there's sure are a lot of people signed up to see that on the ballot. I'm sure they got the signatures.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah, so I mean, you're talking, you know,
Right,
it's a
and-
30
and
years.
well, the governor says he's just gonna raise the state income
Mortgage
tax.
30 years, but we don't know what's gonna happen in 10.
That's what he's saying he's
How
gonna
can
do.
you predict what's gonna happen with that? How can
We
you predict
can't.
what's gonna happen after House Bill 335?
You can't.
But what would be worse is doing nothing. What would be worse is doing nothing. Like, what would be worse
Our
is,
kids deserve better than that.
what would be worse is just sitting here and
I understand,
monopolizing.
yeah,
We gotta do
I
something.
understand.
We gotta do something. We're
Okay.
trying our hardest to try to, you know, we might not agree on what it is that, you know, we're doing, but ultimately the goal of the district and the goal of the board is to create learning environments that are safe for our students, that provide for our students with different learning needs and different and disabilities, that we have environments that our kids wanna come and spend the majority of their day at every day. That's important. And I said, when your kids went to school here, it was probably back then a little bit nicer than it is today. Our kids deserve the same schools that Brecksville has, that Fairview has, that Garfield has, that Cleveland City schools have. Like, our kids just deserve that. So, I mean, I wish
For me-
we have a benefactor. Like, I wish one of the rich people that would just
So
give
you're-
us 59.5
let
million.
me
I'll name
get-
the whole district after him.
I'd still like to get this straight. You said that a develop, this can be used for development, right?
What I said,
Commercial?
no.
Okay, well.
It cannot be used for commercial development. This is zoned residential only, this property. This is 5 acres, about 6 acres, it's about 6 acres. You obviously can't have apartments or things like that here. We could sell this land to a developer who may want to put 3 or 4 homes here,
Right.
because you could probably fit about that many. To your point about the drive, well, unless they're, you know, connected, right, connected. The drive that we put in, to your point, that drive was really initiated thankfully by the city because our safety services were concerned about the safety of the kids here. There was only one way in. While the traffic was hard, the concern was if there was anything that was gonna happen during arrival or dismissal, they could not get their fire trucks and their police cars into the building and on this location. Currently, in our safety plans, we have a fence in the back, and before that was even a road, Mr. Vance, our custodian, would go out there and mow that lawn so there'd be a pathway for our kids to run if they needed to get out of the building, if there was any type of explosion, any type of safety issue. That was how it was. It wasn't safe. And so the city said, you know what, we're gonna partner with you, if we pay for it, if you sell the land to a developer, will you pay it back? We said yes, because they agreed to that part of it. And I will tell you that, like I said, we have another 4 or 5 years until we move into a new building. I wasn't up for putting our kids through that safety risk for 4 or 5 years.
Well,
So-
was there any thought in considering maybe just a smaller building and going K through 7 and then have, because high school's got less than 300 kids. So why not put a few more in the high school and go 8, 9, 10, 11?
The high school does not have less than 200 kids.
No,
so-
300.
Okay, I wanna make sure that we aren't, that we didn't say
No,
200. No, and so I remember when you sat in my office and we had this conversation and I
I
told.
never sat in your office.
No, you didn't say. Oh, I told you on the phone, I'm sorry.
You
When I
never
told you,
talked.
or, no, was it last week? I don't even remember, sir, I'm sorry.
What's my name?
John Doherty.
No, you're wrong.
Oh, Tom.
No.
Tom, sorry. Tom, sorry. I got confused there for a minute. What is your name? Tom. Tim. Doherty.
Close. No, not yours.
What is your name?
Lex.
Thank you.
Okay.
Sorry. Is there any consideration to a smaller room, a smaller space, and moving our 8th graders up? So programming wise, we can't do that. Our 8th graders, we don't have enough rooms up there to add my entire 8th grade up there. We currently currently offer classes at our high school, AP, CCP, things that keep our kids here. If I was to take those classes away and then open up classrooms, I now have more students leaving because they're going to go somewhere else where they can get their experiences. So as much as could I have classes full to the size of 30 up at the high school? Sure. If we had 900 kids, you have 30 kids in the class. We don't. We have 20, 15, 25, depending on what class that is. So I don't have the space. There's still kids in the
You
classrooms.
know, I think that's, the space is what you're talking about, you have more space than when I graduated 50 years ago. And there's books out in the hall, I never saw that when I went to school.
Wait, you have more space here? Are we talking about the high school or here?
Middle school, primary school, we got more space overall than when I graduated 50 years ago.
We put an addition on this building because we needed more space.
Yeah, but you also built a new high school.
There's also difference in programming that you deliver at different times of educational span, right?
Yeah,
So-
like 4 times the students.
And you just have differences, and certainly we can.
Yeah, I mean, it looks totally different than it did 50
I mean,
years ago.
you know, your plan, for me, it wouldn't cost me hardly enough, because I have no, and you just said, about the, capital gains and stuff like that. Same with interest and stuff, can't be taxed.
Did you get a different 1080?
Okay, all right. So, for me, I mean, the cost seems to be more on the younger people, you know, the people that are trying to get into the independence, and it's hard for a lot of people to get this. Because they're the ones who are gonna be putting the kids over in the schools.
Yeah, yeah.
We're okay with
And
that.
we're okay with it.
Honestly,
That's what we're
good.
looking for, is to tell you we are okay with it.
I honestly.
We have 2 young kids, preschool and kindergarten.
So,
Honestly, I support this funding mechanism. They could have rammed a levy down our throats, and we would have no recourse if everyone said yes. This shifts the burden from people that don't have a lot of skin in the game to the families that are going to send our kids to these schools. We're absolutely in favor of this.
We want to thank everybody